Hello, everyone, and welcome to this. This is a special review of the granddaddy of them all, WrestleMania, in what was truly a very eventful and I guess you should say also noteworthy WrestleMania weekend. I mean, obviously Friday we had the successful NXT TakeOver Dallas show with probably my match of the year in Shinsuke Nakamura making his debut with NXT against Sami Zayn. The NXT title match with Samoa Joe challenging up against Finn Balor was also fantastic and could have maybe even given that match a run for the money. The Nakamura Zayn match a run for its money for match of the year if the referees and this PG blood policy hadn't come into effect. Then you had the Hall of Fame on Saturday, plus as well there was Evolve and some other shows going on there. I didn't get to see those, so I really can't lay an opinion out on there. But the Hall of Fame was pretty cool. I thought it was a very, an enjoyable Hall of Fame. Really, it came down to really just, obviously Sting being the main event and giving announcing his retirement full time. And I thought he gave a pretty good speech with some good stories in there about, the likes of, what Seth Rollins said after the injury happened to Sting. And I thought, obviously, everyone was there for the Freebirds. I mean, it may have been like a half an hour speech, or maybe even a bit more than that. But I thought it was totally well worth it. It was, from the heart, bringing out the likes of, Terry Gordy's kid and Buddy Roberts' kid, and then David Von Erich came out. I mean, it was the perfect induction speech for that region in Dallas where all those guys made their name. And then, of course, I think maybe the Freebirds get the best video package with WWE going all out and getting the rights to the song Freebird by Lynyrd Skynyrd. So I think that was really the highlights for me. I mean, maybe the class wasn't the be-all, end-all greatest compared to the 2015 class, but I think those two, that Freebird speech, I think, is just something that you need to see if you're a wrestling fan. And even if you're not a wrestling fan, I thought it was just a very well done speech. So then we get to, obviously, yesterday, Sunday, WrestleMania Sunday. And, from the reports that came out, it seemed like if you were there live, it seemed absolutely hectic getting in as the Wi-Fi at AT&T Stadium went down, so they couldn't scan tickets. Huge delay. Basically, everyone was trying to get in at the same time. It looked like herding cattle. So they missed most of the pre-show. They did get in there in time before the Intercontinental title ladder match. But, just a quick rundown of the pre-show. I thought Kalisto defending the U.S. Championship against Ryback was a solid little match. You knew the storyline they were going to do, the David versus Goliath type thing, and, WWE loves to do that storyline, and Kalisto retained after, he countered into a very innovative way to get the Salina del Sol set up basically by Ryback ramming his head into the middle turnbuckle pad that had been removed by Kalisto, who pulled it off after he was trying to stop Ryback from pulling him away. So, those guys went out there and did what they could. I think also, kudos to them for putting on a pretty solid match in a tougher situation with not a lot of a crowd out there. So it looked worse on television, but I thought they did a pretty good match going on. Actually, I thought for the pre-show matches, the match that maybe on all of WrestleMania that really blew me away was the 10 Diva tag, where it was the Total Divas versus Bad and Blonde. I thought a lot of these girls got their shine moments on. It was nice to see Emma come back out there, and she had some nice sequences with Paige. There was a heart attack spot that Natty and Paige used. All in all, I think you just see there's actually, besides the three girls that were in the now women's title match, which they did announce also on the pre-show, them changing the Divas title to the women's title, which I think is 2 years too late to do, but I guess better late than never is the saying. This company has a lot of girls that can go. I think Naomi is one of the most underrated girls out there. And obviously Brie got the yes lock in on Naomi for the finish, and it was her final match. As you could kind of tell, She's been wanting to retire for a long period of time, but the way they hoisted her up on her shoulders after that was pretty. You could tell that she's pretty much done with being an in-ring performer. I think she was for a while, but now that Daniel Bryan's officially retired, they can now go on focus on stuff ventures outside of the world of pro wrestling. And then Nikki came down with inner gear, but all with the neck brace on. So that was a pretty cool moment, and actually a match that I think a lot people were maybe not super excited about. I mean, we knew it was on the pre-show, but I think all those girls really busted their butt and kind of, I don't want to say stole the pre-show, but it really exceeded like my expectations, and I think a lot of people. It was fun, and I thought those girls worked really hard, and the baby faces come off the victors. And then the last one was the Dudley boys versus the Usos. I mean, I was expecting maybe a bit better of a match, but I mean, I guess they were time crunched there with trying to just get last minute subscriptions to the network so you could get WrestleMania for free and enjoy the event. So they kind of rushed it. I mean, Usos came away with the victory, and then the Dudleys attacked the Usos after, but the Usos were able to turn the tables and put the Dudleys through the tables, which has been the whole build of this feud. And hopefully now something, I expect to see a rematch actually on the next pay-per-view of, what is it, Battleground, I believe is what it'll be called. So I expect to see a rematch for them, but I think, honestly, this feud and this heel turn for the Dudleys has just done wonders for them since coming back, where they came back as such big faces, but obviously with the success the New Day's having, they weren't going to switch the titles onto the Dudleys just for the nostalgia factor. And now I think the Dudleys are in their stride as heels. I mean, obviously we know they work the best as heels. So then we went to the main card of WrestleMania, where we had the Intercontinental ladder match with Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn versus Dolph Ziggler versus Stardust versus The Miz, and yeah, that was that's what kicked things off here. And these guys, and Sin Cara as well was in this matchup. So another a multi-man match that is going to start off the show for these big pay-per-views in WrestleMania. And I honestly thought we had some very innovative spots. I mean, I was happy to see that after the show's over, now that no one was seriously injured. Sin Cara had a couple big spots in the match where he got pushed off a ladder but was able to springboard off the ropes. And he also had one where he was being tilted off the ladder, but he was able to hit a crossbody onto, I believe it was Stardust, onto the ladder that was laid across from the ring apron to the guardrail, and Stardust went through that as well. The thing I liked about this match, though, was, as we all know how it ended, and I guess we'll get to that in a second, but you now set up Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens as actually a program where Owens was about to win, and then Sami Zayn basically took him out of the match with a German suplex right under the ladder. It looked like Sami Zayn was about to win, and then The Miz tipped him off the ladder to the floor, and we all thought, oh man, here's The Miz gonna win. And he had such heat, because I think everyone really was expecting that this match was going to come down to just two guys, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, and we had that spot, and it looked like that was going to be the match. And then Miz comes in, and I think he got kind of some legit heat, and just the way he sold that, here I am all alone about to grab the Intercontinental title, and I'm going to be the champion, I think actually kind of soured some people, because Miz has been floundering, but to me, I think he's actually in his best stride right now as a character in this company. But was not to be the case, as he's about to be the chicken shit heel and just grab the belt so gently. Zack Ryder comes up from behind, knocks him off the ladder, and bam, we have a new Intercontinental champion in Zack Ryder, for a guy who really truly deserves to be Intercontinental champion, to have this amazing WrestleMania moment. I mean, after he grabbed the title, hugged with his dad in the ring, it was a really cool moment. I mean, it started off the trend of weird booking on this WrestleMania with guys that you really weren't expecting to see them go over, but they did. And of all of them on the show, I had no problem with Ryder. It's nice to see them actually give Ryder something. Who's to say what's going to end up happening? This could be a very just transitional title run, or I don't know what the direction is, but maybe this was just done for a cool moment, which would actually be kind of unfortunate. But I think hopefully they finally give the guy his just due, because this guy has never been on the radar of anyone in the production side of things or booking committees to make this guy a star or even credible. So he went out and gets himself over about 4 or 5 years ago. It's one of the most over guys, and still the company's like, no, we don't want you to be an important factor in our company. So they do everything in their power to bury him. Barely gets on Raw, sends him down to NXT, tags with Mojo Rawley as the Hype Bros. Does a lot for this company, even though this company hasn't been fair in return, and finally he gets a nice moment like that. So a interesting situation to kick things off on a Mania. That would be very, very interesting as we continued. And we continued that with the next match. It was Chris Jericho versus AJ Styles. A match I think a lot of people were expecting this to be the end of their feud. With obviously, I guess, the finish here, it's not going to be. But this is, to me, where I guess the booking really got super screwy, as, Jericho was able to get the better of Styles on certain counters and, get him into the code breaker. Or, excuse me, not the code breaker, the Walls of Jericho a couple times in this match. And then Styles had to fight out of it. And then, AJ was able to then, have like his 450s and even a Styles clash. And can I just say that I am just stunned at this company. I know there's the rumors of last year in the news about this move being, a deadly move, but this is the guy's move, and they even have the commentators talk about it. Still don't know why they don't want this to be the finishing move. I think it's a cool move from a visual standpoint, obviously, and it's such a trademark of Styles, and it seems like they're bringing the whole Styles factor in. But, they just made him look like such a dummy, as after he had Jericho on the ropes after, Styles clashes and the 450, then he's like, he could easily, they book him as such an idiot here where he could have the match won, but goes on the outside, wants to hit that Styles forearm with the springboard, and just gets springboarded right into the code breaker, making him look like such an idiot. Like, I don't understand what they do with Styles here. I think obviously the feud continues going into Battleground, but this was a big chance right here. Jericho's one of those guys that can lose a million times in a row and his status will not be affected in the company. I don't know why you don't have Styles, win this match and, end the feud. And as well, you spent all this money, you bring this guy in and actually bring him to the main roster, but it's like they want to just do typical WWE mentality of, well, you got a lot of stardom and fame outside of our company, so we got to punish you for that, which is just absolutely asinine and stupid logic to have that be put through. But whatever, I really don't know, and I hope they keep, pushing Styles. I think obviously he's super talented and still has a, strong attraction with, a good amount of the fan base, but if they keep beating him down and making him look ridiculous like this, then who knows what's going to end up happening with AJ Styles. But this was the start of the trend of just weird, awkward booking. So then we went to the handicap match with the New Day versus the League of Nations. New Day had a really cool entrance where they came out of the big box of Bootios and danced, and League of Nations just got the basic entrance, and they came out. And the first thing I noticed actually about the League of Nations is Rusev is looking pretty lean right now. This guy's got to have cut down at least 15 to 20 pounds and put on a lot of muscle and took that fat off. So he looks like he could maybe be, if they broke up this League of Nations pretty soon, he could be in maybe for a run at the Intercontinental or U.S. title. But, I was fine with this match. I still think, they tried to present it like it was a bigger deal than it was, but I was okay with it. But then I was just, once again, stunned that they went with the League of Nations going over the New Day when there's really no reason for that happening. And then it was like almost the whole purpose of this match was to set up, the League of Nations to win so you could bring out Shawn Michaels, Mick Foley, and Austin to stun the League of Nations and clean house on the heels. And then when the New Day come in to celebrate with Michaels, Foley, and Austin. They get punished for that, and they made the New Day look dumb by taking the stunner. I know it's Austin's character, but it's still such a sad state that in 2016, the biggest star to come out of that segment is Austin, Foley, and Michaels. Like, I still can't, like, I can't wrap my head around it. Like, yes, the Attitude Era was a huge time to be a wrestling fan. Yes, it was an important time for WWE, but it makes no sense to me, like, that you had Austin just treat them like that. Plus, what kind of a waste for Austin? Like, you thought they could have maybe had a cool segment backstage with the Von Erichs or something of that nature, but such a waste to me for the likes of HBK, Austin, and Foley to be involved in something like that. Like, I think they could have come up with a lot more creative stuff for those guys to be in, but I don't know. I still, once again, the trend of awkward continued, and I was just not happy with it, where the biggest guy to come out of that segment was Austin, and he's never going to wrestle a match for them ever again. So, maybe a rant for another day, but I think that's also the trend that does continue through this WrestleMania. So then we move on to the next match, which was kind of actually surprised it was placed here, but it was a street fight, Brock Lesnar versus Dean Ambrose, and, you know, maybe a match where I guess I was thinking, you know, Dean needs to win this match, as it seems like he's just primed and ready to be a legit star or the next big baby face that this WWE can have, but the company doesn't want to push him in that direction, and you kind of got to wonder where they where they're gonna stand, what they're gonna do with Dean Ambrose, because I mean, he's coming off 1 month ago losing the title to Triple H, or his shot at the title against Triple H. You know, an excellent match at Roadblock, but now he comes in there against Brock. They had a nice showing, but he just gets hit with that F5, like one F5. Sure, it was on the chairs, and that's it. Like, you would have thought also in a street fight they could have done a lot more plunder and maybe given Dean a lot more of an opportunity to fight through and put more of a fight. You put up a nice fight towards the end, but once, I mean, obviously they're investing in Brock, but they got to figure something to do with Dean Ambrose here, because this is a guy that's just aching, and you can just see that he's got so much potential, and they're just misusing it. I guess obviously they don't see him as that superstar, but that's just going to hurt them in the long run here, because this company needs a lot of stars going forward. As obvious on this WrestleMania, then the biggest stars are guys from 20 some odd years ago. They got to put him in these important situations, and he really needed the win. I don't think Brock losing here really affects him at all. So I'm kind of surprised they had Ambrose do the take the pin from Brock here. Who knows if they do a rematch? I don't know Brock's situation. I'm going to assume we won't see Brock again till SummerSlam. I'm not 100% if he will come back just to do the Battleground show. I don't think so, but you would think they would maybe want to set something up big for Brock in the long run. I really hope it's also not the rumor of against the Wyatts, because that was supposed to be on WrestleMania and that fizzled so fast. So who knows what they do, but I think Dean really could have used the win here and to push him forward, because he's going to be there for the next 4 or 5 months as we get to SummerSlam, and Brock won't be. So I think they'd maybe want to do that. And like I said, it's not like Brock's losing to someone in a bad position here, and not like Brock would be affected badly by a loss to someone like Ambrose. But then, anyways, moving on. Then we got our Divas, well, it was the Divas title as originally advertised, but on the show, as I think I made mention earlier, that they've officially changed the Divas Championship to the Women's Championship. I know it's 2-3 years too late, but that's just WWE these days. They want to say they're ahead of the trend on a lot of things, but there's behind the times on these things. Like, if you just even look last year, where women's sports is really exploding with your Ronda Rouseys, Holly Holm at the end of 2015, but also the Women's World Cup was a huge sporting event in North America. They had strong ticket attendance in the host country here in Canada, but that women's final with the United States versus Japan was one of the most, I believe, the most watched women's sporting event in the history of the United States. So women's sports has become something that you don't take as a joke or lightly anymore. It's, become legit sports marketing out there, and I'm just stunned. WWE didn't jump on that. They're someone that likes to be at the forefront of women taking head. But I'm happy they got rid of this name, divas, because to me a diva is just a girl who is just drama, tough to get along with, and really does also doesn't do anything for herself except rely on someone to pay the way for her to get through and whatnot. So I know they tried to market it as this empowering word, but really we all know what a diva is. So now that they're treating the women as women and women athletes, I think it's a step in the right direction, just 2 years too late. But this match, I thought, it also really just shows the sign of how things are changing there right now, as this is a women's match that had a special entrance, basically, for, 2 of the 3, but still dramatic, important entrances made this women's title match feel 10 times bigger than it was. I think it was one of the most anticipated matches on the card. So it's Charlotte versus Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch. I mean, Sasha Banks got not only a rap from her cousin Snoop Dogg, who before that was out there with the other Hall of Famers as he was inducted into the Hall of Fame on the Saturday night, and then Charlotte came out with a robe with pieces from Ric Flair's robe at WrestleMania 24. So I mean, that was cool, and I thought honestly these girls tore the house down, put on probably the best women's wrestling match on a WrestleMania that we've ever had. Leaps, I would say, leaps better than the Trish Stratus Mickie James match from 10 years ago at WrestleMania 22. I just thought this was great. These girls were out there busting their ass. Great false finishes. I mean, Sasha with the frog splash onto both Becky and Charlotte's legs when they were in the figure 4. That was great. I mean, there was a couple near falls there where you thought actually they were going to change the title. I mean, Sasha was thrown to the floor and Becky did tap after she was in the figure 4 and Flair held Sasha from making the save. I think, honestly, maybe at the time I thought, new title, new person to put on it. I thought they may go Sasha there. But I'm actually totally fine with it, with Flair, with Charlotte and Flair still doing their thing. Her as champion, I think it's just... Right now they're on a huge hot streak, and as they say in Vegas, when you're on a heater, you don't leave the table, and that's exactly where they're at with Charlotte. And I think, now you can do a rematch at Battleground Triple Threat where, those girls can have the ability to just top themselves. But then you have, your individual programs. I think obviously the big one everyone's waiting to see, maybe come SummerSlam, is Charlotte versus Sasha Banks solo. I could probably see the title changing hands come the end of the summer, but still we're miles away from that. They got a good thing going there with Charlotte and Flair, the gutsy heel out there. I think it's great. I think honestly women's wrestling in this company is at the strongest it's ever been, and I'm happy they're taking it legit serious. Instead of decades of bra and panties matches and just go up and get a washroom break or something from the fridge when the women's matches were on. So I'm happy to see the change. And then we got the match I think a lot of us were interested in, or they'd pushed a lot, that I think we were just kind of confused to see where it was going to go. It was the Hell in a Cell match. Between Shane McMahon and The Undertaker, and if Shane McMahon won, he's in control of Raw. And if Taker lost, he can no longer compete at WrestleMania. Well, I honestly thought these guys worked really hard for themselves in this match. It actually came off when the bell rang like this was going to be... I had to feel like big title fight. For some reason, maybe it was just the crowd, the atmosphere and everything. And, just after a Taker entrance, somehow it just brings that match up. It had that feeling where, they were trying this, the strikes, and, Shane strikes are, they are what they are. But they had that bigger feel to it. Maybe it did get a little corny that, Undertaker had to sell a lot of Shane's jiu-jitsu stuff that he just learned in 4 weeks, and all of a sudden he's a jiu-jitsu master from Renzo Gracie. Like, he could come out there and, win a UFC lightweight title or something of that nature. So I don't know. I thought maybe that was corny, but once they had Shane got the bolts off the one side of the fence, and then they went through the one announcer table where Shane had the rear naked choke on, which they're now calling a sleeper. And I would just honestly hope, how is that not a finish for someone? Like, with how MMA's exploded, like, that needs to be a finish again. But moving on, then we had, of course, the spot everyone was hoping we would see. For some reason, I just shake my head at that. So Shane climbed to the top of the cell and had Taker strewn across the broadcast table with JBL, Michael Cole, and Byron Saxton. And he went and dove off the top to deliver the elbow, and Taker moved out of the way and just totally went through the table. And look, yes, it was a crazy spot, and it was a crazy moment on WrestleMania that we're going to see for years to come. And, kudos to Shane. He, in big match situations, always does, goes out for the fans. But it's 2016. Shane's 53 years old. I don't need to see those bumps anymore. There was a point in time where they were, tolerated. But, we've learned so much on, injuries and certain concussions and stuff. I don't need to see crazy bumps like that anymore. Like, that could have been a lot worse. Had he missed or overshot by an inch or two. Like, that could have been so much worse than it was. I just don't need to see stuff like that. We don't need to see stunts like that. Honestly, I thought we were going to see Shane do an elbow from the side of the cage, but I didn't need to see Shane go from the top. I didn't need to see that at all. Like, it's kind of bad when the most exciting thing everyone was hoping to see in 2016 was Shane do an insane Attitude Era-esque spot. Like, this is what the business right now, in terms of WWE and the big shows, is just stuck in this hole of the Attitude Era, and everyone wants to see stuff like that. Like, I don't. The business has moved on. And you'd think with, the rise of the women and how the wrestling's so much more important, you'd think that the wrestling and in-ring product would be as more important. I know it's not all about what goes on in there, and you need characters and superstars to draw business and ticket sales, but I don't need to see people crashing through it 15 feet from a cell. Like, I don't need to see it anymore. I saw it. I lived through the Attitude Era, but we don't need to see that anymore. I mean, then now it's just going to get to the point of, well, what can I do to top what Shane did at Mania? Like, I don't need to see people trying to kill themselves for my entertainment. I respect what they do for a living, and they're in danger enough as it is in a normal match. I don't need to see them trying to kill themselves. But Taker brought Shane in and hit him with the tombstone, and, it's kind of weird that they pushed that big angle where Shane could take over Raw, and we got nothing out of it. So that's odd. Either he's, it was a one-time deal at Mania, or we shall wait and see for later on. And also Taker took his gloves off and left them in the center of the ring. So apparently this is the end for Undertaker, which I don't think at all is true. I'm expecting we'll see Taker at WrestleMania 33 at some point. I mean, let's be real. Taker's still half the reason you got to watch WrestleMania, to see The Undertaker, especially for what the title match was this year. So, so we will wait and see with Taker. He says he's done, but then again, he said he was done after 30 and after 31. So, I don't buy into that until it's actually done, or they do something on TV to prove it's done. Then we moved to the Andre the Giant Battle Royal as the buffer, which actually, let's be real, I thought that was the appropriate spot here. And this is, I guess, where you kind of realize WrestleMania was going to run ridiculously long. Like, when the next segment, when The Rock came out at like 10:30 on the East Coast, there was going to be a lot of overrun issues and long points of time, and being the longest Mania ever. I believe it finished at like 6 hours and 35 minutes. So crazy. But Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, of course, they had their ESPN SportsCenter moment where Shaq was one of the contestants, and I guess it's kind of cool that they finished the feud from, I believe, 2011, when Shaq was the guest host of Raw, and he had that deal where him and Big Show were both in the Goozle, and they goozled each other, and eventually they get both eliminated. So it was kind of cool that they, I guess, long-term did finish that. But, I mean, the Battle Royal, I think they actually uses it, hopefully, we say this every year, to this key to the success of it, where, you had a lot of guys that don't get a lot of time on the roster, but they had Baron Corbin in there. We had a couple surprises like Diamond Dallas Page and Tatanka, who was at one point my pick to win it. But Baron Corbin being in there, him winning, I think is huge. Obviously, I guess it would seem like he's now on the main roster, which, he's just perfect for what WWE wants in a guy, tall, has kind of a chilling-ish character, still is a project for the work in the ring, but with, working with a couple of veterans right there, he can maybe settle himself into that type of scenario. But him winning, I think, is good. I mean, you want to have a young guy to push something off of with that. I mean, they tried it with Cesaro the first year at WrestleMania 30. Big Show winning, I guess, was just to have, the Giant connection here. But hopefully they do something with Corbin as now like a, the new Giant of the WWE, kind of like what they could, do with Big John Studd. So I guess maybe we'll see tonight on Raw, but I guess maybe we'll get a Big Show versus Baron Corbin program. And then we went into The Rock taking 30,000 years to get to the ring. And I don't know why they thought it would be so freaking cool to have The Rock with the flamethrower. That came off very lame, and almost with how The Rock was holding that gun like he wanted to recreate a China entrance from 1999. But Rock basically came out to announce that they had a new attendance record for a WWE pay-per-view in 101,000, which is not accurate, but the real number was somewhere in the neighborhood of 97,000, which is an actual record for them. And they drew for this weekend of WrestleMania like $17 million, which is $5 million more from the last year's WrestleMania in Santa Clara. So, I mean, that's one of the strongest brands right now in sports, is the name WrestleMania. So, I mean, the marketing they must have done in Dallas was tremendous to actually have that stadium pretty much sold out. I would say probably sold out. I haven't talked to a lot of people who I know were there, but it did look absolutely spectacular once everyone got in there through the ticket issues. But then The Rock came out and did that, which led to Bray Wyatt coming out, and then they had a bit of a promo battle, and I just thought, oh, Bray, this is poor Bray. He's just getting made to look like an idiot. And then The Rock announced, surprise match! And I was like, well, you had 2 months to announce The Rock was going to be in a match or something of that magnitude, and no idea why they didn't do it. But whatever, they didn't do it. They just announced Rock was going to be there. I think, honestly, if you announce The Rock's in the match, it obviously is going to increase your potential subscription rate, and more tickets maybe get sold. That they had a lot of walk-ups, but maybe have less walk-ups and more people buying in advance. The bigger tickets that may or may not have been available, but still, I think they should have handled The Rock on this card a lot better. Has a match with what's his name, Eric Rowan. 6-second pinfall. So I guess The Rock's now the record holder for the shortest match in WrestleMania history. And it looks like all the rest of the Wyatts are now, Bray and Braun Strowman, and then Rowan, who gets about to do a 3-on-1 assault. But then we get the return of John Cena, and they beat down the Wyatts. They Rock gives a rock bottom to Braun Strowman. Bray gets a rock bottom. And I just feel so bad for Bray Wyatt. I mean, this is a guy who on WrestleMania has had his career just hit sinks to lower and lower levels. Really should have had that win against John Cena at WrestleMania 30. Taker, you knew he kind of was going to lose, but it was a bad spot to be in. And then this year, doesn't even have a match, but still gets kind of beaten up by the old guard, and no one can grow. So, I mean, this is a character that just needs an absolute hit of the reset button, because this character is going absolutely nowhere, and they need to do something drastic with him because there's so much potential. He's, fantastic in the ring, one of the best auras in a character, and obviously his promo ability is tremendous, could be one of the best guys in the company to do that, but this character is in such a rut right now, and he needs to win a big match or big program, or they just need to really reset the character right here, because the Wyatts are just honestly ice cold right now, and I would say almost near, in my opinion right now, for me, they're go away heat, because they're just going to be made to look like idiots or do a job. And then we go to our main event of the evening, which took, by the way, 20 minutes to get there, as we went from what was going to be the main event in Triple H defending the WWE Championship against Roman Reigns, Stephanie doing a Phantom of the Opera type thing off the start, which took an extra 10 minutes, Roman got just a basic entrance out there. I mean, honestly, I think because this show had been going on for 6 hours at this point, it was a lot of burnout. But I mean, it's just Triple H once again hit a spot where he shouldn't have closed the show with this. I know the company wanted to close the show with Reigns and the fireworks and him having the title, but shouldn't have closed the show with this, I guess, because no one was into this match. Tons of boos, and apparently there were reports that WWE was editing the audio from the crowd, so it seemed like less boos than there really were. But I mean, it just goes back to what I said before, because when I went to the Roadblock show back in March, I mean, Triple H was perceived as a wrestling god. And, like, yes, they were into Dean Ambrose more so than Roman Reigns, but anyone from the Attitude Era who's done anything are gods right now. And there's no room for building proper guys. And that's why this, like, I just can't believe the hate for Roman Reigns that goes on right now. Like, it's worse than anything Cena ever got. And, like, don't get me wrong, Roman at first had really been pushed down our throats, but I think he had to deal with a lot of humble pie with how everything's gone. And I think in 2015 he really pulled his big boy pants on and proved he can be a top guy, at least from an in-ring standpoint. Last year in the main event against Brock, he really showed what he can do in there as a tough guy. Did that feud with Bray go on way too long? Absolutely, but that was still a big deal. And look, the fans were even into Roman Reigns at the end of 2015, where he did win the title at Survivor Series and then did that beatdown of Triple H. The fans were into it. It's just this show dragged on too long, and the style of a match they're trying to work 6 hours into a show holds. We don't. I know you're trying to build up stuff, but you can't have that. Could have been more of a brawl, especially for all the adversity that the Authority and Triple H specifically had put Roman through. You could have maybe started out a little hotter, kind of what the Balor-Joe match had started out. Hopefully no headbutts to cut Roman open. But Roman, there was obviously the big spot in the match was Stephanie taking a spear from Roman Reigns. And then, the sledgehammer came out, but Roman ducked those shots, hit Triple H with a spear, and he's your new WWE champion. So, to me, it may sound like I really did like WrestleMania a lot, and don't get me wrong, I thought it wasn't. I've heard a lot of people say this was the worst WrestleMania ever, which, trust me, folks, it is not. You need to relook the tapes at WrestleManias 9 and 11, or even 27, for that matter, as the worst WrestleManias of all time. It's just, to me, it's just wacky with the booking decisions. I don't understand why you'd have, New Day or AJ Styles go out to be made look like idiots. I don't understand why you'd have what you did to New Day, them lose to the League of Nations just for them to get saved by Legends, and then the Legends hit the stunner on Xavier Woods and make them look dumb. I don't understand that decision there. I just don't understand a lot of the decisions on this show, honestly. I don't understand why you hype up a big angle with Shane McMahon when he's going to lose. So it's just a lot of the booking was just wacky. I think the guys busted themselves out in the ring. I thought a lot of the matches were really, really good, to some even great. I thought the women's match you could even classify as great, especially for where the company isn't. Those girls really, really brought it. So all in all, I would really say this is a thumbs in the middle WrestleMania, but something I would still go make sure to see at least some points. I'd definitely make sure you see, the women's match, the Hell in a Cell match, and, the ladder match, for that matter, the Intercontinental match, because I think that's a pretty good feel-good moment with Zack Ryder winning. So that's going to do it for this review. We'll definitely try to come back and hit you with more reviews on shows coming up. This is my bread and butter. Love the world of professional wrestling. So that's going to do it for this. Peace out. Have a good day, everyone.